Well, Coach, you took your sweet time getting this pumpkin bag out, didn't you? But I'm glad it's finally arrived. It has just made it in time for Thanksgiving. In today's video, I'm going to show you some details of the bag. I'm going to tell you a story related to pumpkin pie, which of course, to me, this is my pumpkin pie bag. And this bag is sold out now, but if you are interested in this bag, I'm going to give you my suggestions for how you might be able to score it if you still want one. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so you know when Coach first released those shaped bags like the banana bag, the fish bag, the Rexy shaped dinosaur bag, I was just like, those are cute, but where's the pumpkin bag? Because I remember seeing that on the runway. And in fact, I texted my SA and she said she thinks it's coming, but it will be later in the fall. So I'm just patiently waiting, still no news, still no news. And finally, when it is up on the Coach website, it says pre-order. So it's not going to be shipped later, and then they even delayed that ship date. So yeah, there was definitely a delay with this bag, but it did make it before Thanksgiving. And when I was chatting with the girls in the group, I said, well, at least it's here still in time for pumpkin pie season. And I did see some chats in one of the Coach Facebook groups that I belong to. And there's quite some variance of opinions about this, because on the runway, it had the embossed signature print, you know, like some of the other shaped bags. But this one, as you can see, is a smooth leather, and it doesn't have the signature CC all over it. I like this smooth leather better because it actually reminds me of pumpkin pie. That's just my impression of this bag, but I know others definitely have a different opinion of it. So it's not patent, it's not shiny, it's just smooth and like creamy. Here's an overview of the bag. It's a symmetric design, meaning it looks the same from the front and the back. And so it has this concave design so you can see the edge of it, and it stands up really nicely on a flat surface. And I wanted to point out that if it didn't have this hang tag, you would not know this is a Coach bag. It has a single zip, and that zip is very smooth on my bag. This bag is leather lined, and it has a lovely interior. That is a bright orange inside, and there's a card slot right here, and then of course the creed is on the back. But look at that color inside. It's really pretty, and the leather inside is really, really soft. It's really nice. If you're curious to know what fits, this is a Pro Max size phone, and you can see by just looking here that it actually does fit in this bag. Now, if the phone fits, not much else will around it, but it does fit in there. And there's about how much room extra I have around it. To show you what I have packed up in here in the bag, I put in my mini pochette with lots of little things in there, like my key fob, extra cards, things like that, and my card holder, and a little pouch for medicine. It does come with a crossbody strap. I have to say that it is a very thin strap, but it works fine. And here's a mod shot of me wearing the bag crossbody, but mostly I wear the bag top handle. Now, occasionally I've slipped it in like this real quick, and I forget that it has these little stems. There's not a lot of room here, and I forget about that until I get my hand out of the bag and I'm like, oh yeah, there's not a lot of room here. So I don't really recommend it as a crook of the arm kind of bag. It definitely works best top handle. So I think it's really cute. It's a great novelty bag. I was kind of worried about the faded orange color, but once I got it out of the box, I was like, oh yeah, I think it really works on this bag. Today when I'm filming, it's a little bit overcast, and so I'm going to pop in a color of when I wore it yesterday, and it was a really bright sunny day, and you can see, I think, a little bit better the true color of this bag. So like I said, it is here in time for Thanksgiving, and that's very exciting to me because pumpkin pie is a part of our annual family tradition. And I wanted to tell you a story about when I lived in Hungary. As I've mentioned before, I lived in Hungary for 2 years, and this was back in like 2007, 2008. So I was a student there. I showed up to class, just like going through my normal routine, and another student there that was American leaned over to me before class started and just kind of said, "Happy Thanksgiving." And I was like, oh, my heart sank because, like, of course I knew it was Thanksgiving Day, but I just hadn't thought about it yet so far that morning. Yeah, and from that moment on, I was homesick. The thing is, though, that we had all organized a big potluck for the weekend, and we were all going to make some kind of dish from home to share with each other. So, students from all around the world were living there. It was a pedagogical institute. We were all there to study the Hungarian music education methods. If you're into music education, you know that they're really, really world famous as for their effectiveness. For that potluck, I had signed up to bring the desserts, and I wanted to make pumpkin pie. But I didn't have all the ingredients there to do that. So I had a visitor coming from the States a few weeks before that, and I had known this beforehand, and so I had asked that person to bring me some ingredients. So they brought me several cans of canned pumpkin and they brought several prepared graham cracker crusts. Also, I didn't have access to Cool Whip because I was going to make one of those like cream cheese Cool Whip layered pumpkin pies. Actually, I'll put a similar recipe at the end of the video so you kind of know what I'm talking about. So not a traditional pumpkin pie, but like a variation, like a cream cheese variation on it. Anyway, I didn't have access to Cool Whip, but so I wanted that like ready whip. So it's like powder, and you add milk and you mix it up, and it makes the equivalent of Cool Whip. So several packets of that, and then Jell-O instant pudding mix. So that person brought me all of those ingredients when they came to visit. So I had everything ready to make that, not that exact recipe that I'm showing you at the end, but a very close variation of that. So everything went fine with the pumpkin pies. There's not a dramatic ending to this story, but what I did not anticipate was the interest in me making these pumpkin pies. So I'll show a picture here. We had a very small kitchen for all these people that were living together in the institute. By the way, the institute was in an old monastery, so it was very close quarters in terms of the shared kitchen. So I decided to make the pumpkin pies the night before the potluck dinner. And so I went into the kitchen that night, started making the pumpkin pies, and word started spreading that I was down there doing this. And people started coming in and watching. And then I started getting nervous, and I started to feel the pressure to like have the perfect pumpkin pie. And so like my friends like started taking pictures of me like making the pumpkin pies, and it just became like this cultural situation of me like in the kitchen doing this. So as an example, here's a shot that one of my friends took of me. So that ready whip that I was explaining, I had to put it like in little Ziploc bags to like try to squeeze it out and make little florets, on the top of the pumpkin pies. It all turned out great, and people really loved the pumpkin pies. Got a really big reception out of having this traditional American dessert. But the potluck itself was extraordinary because we had food from around the world on a Thanksgiving. So what turned out for me to feel very homesick on that Thursday, by the weekend, I'd had such an extraordinary experience to share a meal with friends, with dishes and food that I had never experienced before. It was really a memory that I treasure even until this day. So this bag is sold out online now. So if you are still wanting a pumpkin bag, here are my suggestions. Of course, keep looking online to see if one might pop back up, that might be returned to the warehouse and get back into their stock inventory. But I suggest that you reach out either in person or by calling a Coach store and tell the manager that you're interested in one if one happens to be returned, because that is what happened to me with this bag, the Coach Jelly Tabby. I had looked at them when they were online and hemmed and hawed. I wasn't quite sure, and when I thought about getting it, it was already sold out. So I went into my local store thinking that they might have some in stock there, but they didn't have any. Because my store manager knew that I was looking for one, when she got one in that had been returned, then she texted me to let me know that they had one there in the store. So that's how I was able to get this bag. And then of course, several months later, they were restocked. But in general, that process, worked for me. So that's what I suggest for you if you're interested in this bag, because they've just been delivered to all of us who had made pre-orders. Some people might not like this faded orange color. Some people may not like the smoothness of this leather. You just never know. So if they make returns, they could make them, they could mail them back into the warehouse, or they could take them into their local store. So I would be ready to pounce on that situation if you want one. Thanks for joining me today. You take care. Happy Thanksgiving, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.